You are dying a silent, agonizing death inside your own mind, and your past trauma is the exact weapon you are using to kill yourself. What if your brokenness is a seductive lie? The truth waiting at the end will make you physically recoil, and finally, set you free. The illusion of your existence, awakening from the coma of approval. Have you ever looked in the mirror and suddenly realized the face staring back at you belongs to a complete stranger? You are not exhausted because you are working too hard physically. You are entirely, devastatingly depleted because every single day you are dying a silent, agonizing death inside your own mind. You are relentlessly bleeding out your soul just to maintain a flawless facade, desperately playing the role of a good person in the eyes of people who do not even truly care about you. We are drowning in a terrifying era of existential dread where you willingly suffocate yourself with heavy social masks because you are paralyzed by the fear that your true self is fundamentally inadequate. You have meticulously carved away pieces of your own identity, butchering your own desires just to fit perfectly into sick, invisible molds created by a nameless, faceless crowd. And the inevitable result of this self-betrayal? A hollow, gaping void in your chest. A total mental and spiritual collapse. The agonizing truth that you've been frantically avoiding is that all your internal suffering, all your endless anxiety, stems from one brutal fact. You are living a counterfeit life, strictly measured by the twisted rulers of others. Before we delve deeply into the ruthless philosophy that will shatter this madness once and for all, the inner multiverse warmly welcomes you to our sanctuary of truth. If you are ready to stop living as a terrified slave to society's gaze and want to uncover the raw, unfiltered secrets of the human mind, please subscribe to our channel right now to support us in creating more life-altering awakenings for you. To break free from this suffocating psychological prison, we cannot rely on cheap comfort, sweet illusions, or toxic positivity. We desperately need a philosophical system that is unapologetic and unforgiving, a brutal wake-up call that absolutely refuses to soothe your fragile ego. We must courageously confront the penetrating, radical philosophy of Alfred Adler, meticulously dissected through the illuminating lens of the courage to be disliked. Adler's ideology violently shatters the safe, pathetic illusions that mainstream pop psychology constantly uses to coddle you. He forces us to realize that true happiness is never a soft, random blessing that magically falls into the laps of the passive. It demands a ferocious, terrifying courage. It is a merciless, radical decision to go to war against your own cowardice, daring to destroy the fake reality you have built just to be accepted. The seductive lie of your past. Why trauma is a weapon you wield against yourself. To wage this agonizing war against your own cowardice, the very first casualty must be the story you have relentlessly told yourself about your past. For years, you have sought refuge in the comforting embrace of your trauma, wielding it as an impenetrable shield against the terrifying demands of the present. We have been deeply conditioned by the standard psychological worldview to believe that our past wounds dictate our current failures, that because we were hurt, abandoned, or profoundly misunderstood, we are fundamentally broken and permanently incapable of moving forward. Alfred Adler violently dismantles this seductive lie, proposing a truth so agonizingly sharp that it will make you physically recoil. Trauma, as a definitive dictator of your fate, does not exist. You are not a helpless prisoner chained to the tragic, unchangeable events of your yesterdays. Instead, you are actively manufacturing your current anxiety, your paralyzing fear, and your debilitating sadness to serve a hidden, highly functional purpose in the present. You use the memory of your past pain as a convenient, unbreakable excuse to avoid the monumental risk of stepping into the unknown. It is far easier to label yourself as a permanently damaged victim than to take absolute, terrifying responsibility for your life right now. If you are broken by your past, you never have to try. If you never try, you never have to face the excruciating humiliation of failure. Your trauma has become a twisted, cozy blanket that protects you from the fierce, unpredictable winds of change. Acknowledging this requires a shattering level of intellectual honesty. It means looking at the darkest, most painful chapters of your life and realizing that while the pain inflicted upon you was undeniably real and entirely unfair, holding on to it as a permanent identity is a choice you are actively making this very second. You must forgive yourself for using this desperate defense mechanism, but you must also ruthlessly strip it away. You are the sole author of your existence, holding the pen in this exact moment, and the ink of the past has already dried. To continue blaming your parents, your environment, or your tragedies is to willingly hand over the keys of your soul to ghosts that no longer exist. True transformation begins the exact second you realize that your past does not have the power to write your future unless you explicitly give it permission to do so. The architecture of hell, how other people became your invisible wardens. Once you miraculously strip away the comforting excuse of your past, you are immediately forced to confront the terrifying battlefield of the present, the agonizing reality of other people. Alfred Adler boldly declares that all human suffering is, at its core, a problem of interpersonal relationships. Think about the exhausting, invisible rat race you run every single day, the suffocating pressure that makes your chest tight the moment you scroll through your phone or walk into a crowded room. You have been brainwashed into perceiving the entire world as a ruthless, hierarchical arena where everyone is either above you, looking down with pity, or below you, looking up with envy. This toxic paradigm forces you into a state of perpetual exhaustion, constantly comparing your messy behind-the-scenes reality with the carefully curated highlight reels of strangers. You are bleeding yourself dry, trying to win a psychological game that has no actual finish line. When you view life as a fierce, unending competition, every single person around you morphs into an enemy, a potential threat to your incredibly fragile ego. You cannot genuinely celebrate the success of your peers because their victory feels like a glaring, burning spotlight on your own perceived inadequacy. You are trapped in a hellscape of your own making, feeling completely isolated, even in a room full of people, because you refuse to see them as comrades. The profound tragedy of this existence is that in your frantic desperation to outrun your deep-seated feelings of inferiority, you completely lose your ability to connect, to love, and to just simply be human. You must realize that human value is not a scarce commodity that needs to be fought over, like starving dogs fighting for a bone. You do not need to be superior to anyone else to justify your fundamental right to draw breath. The moment you step off this endless, agonizing treadmill of comparison, the enemies vanish, the world softens, and the crushing weight of having to constantly prove your worth simply evaporates into thin air. Walking away from this competition does not mean you give up on your ambitions. It means you finally pursue growth for the sheer, exhilarating joy of self-mastery, rather than the pathetic desire to make someone else feel small. The separation of tasks, severing the invisible chains of expectation. To finally escape this brutal, never-ending arena of comparison, you must learn to wield the most ruthless and liberating tool in Alfred Adler's psychological arsenal, the separation of tasks. This concept is a sharp, philosophical scalpel uniquely designed to cut away the cancerous codependency that has infected your mind for decades. Every single day, you twist your soul into agonizing knots, desperately trying to manage what other people think of you, how they react to your choices, and whether or not they validate your existence. You are carrying massive boulders up a mountain that do not even belong to you. Adler demands that we draw a definitive, impenetrable line in the sand between what is unequivocally our task and what is the task of another. If you choose to pursue a passion, to speak your raw truth, or to walk away from a toxic environment, that is your task. If someone else is disappointed, intensely angry, or deeply offended by your authentic choice, that is exclusively their task, not yours. You cannot physically reach across the boundary of their mind and force them to understand you, yet you continuously drain your precious life force trying to do exactly that. We constantly abandon our own inner sanctuaries to go fight bloody wars in the minds of other people. This is the exact root of your suffocating daily anxiety. You must stop intervening in the tasks of others, trying to fix them or meticulously mold them to your liking. And you must aggressively forbid anyone from intervening in yours. When someone harshly judges you, let them. Their judgment is merely a reflection of their own internal limitations, their own unhealed wounds, and their own psychological boundaries, not an objective measurement of your intrinsic worth. Letting go of other people's tasks feels absolutely terrifying at first because it requires you to surrender the illusion of control over the uncontrollable. But in that terrifying surrender lies the most profound psychological relief you will ever experience. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated lightness of moving through the world without desperately scanning the faces of others for a permission slip to exist. The separation of tasks is not an act of cold indifference. It is the ultimate act of respect, honoring the absolute sovereignty of their journey while fiercely protecting the sacred borders of your own. The burning price of freedom, embracing the courage to be despised. When you finally sever those suffocating ties and drop the crushing burdens that were never yours to carry, you will stand face to face with the ultimate, terrifying essence of true freedom. Mainstream society has forcefully fed you the pathetic illusion that freedom means being loved and unconditionally accepted by everyone, implying that if you just twist yourself into the perfect, accommodating shape, you will eventually find peace. Alfred Adler shatters this delusion completely, defining freedom with a brutal, piercing clarity that most are too terrified to hear. True freedom is the courage to be disliked. It is the profound, conscious willingness to willingly step into the crosshairs of societal judgment and stand your ground without flinching. If absolutely no one dislikes you, it simply means you are a psychological chameleon, a hollow vessel, merely mirroring the desires and expectations of whoever happens to be standing in front of you. It means you have successfully murdered your own soul just to keep an imaginary peace. True liberation is not the absence of conflict. It is the absolute, unshakable refusal to compromise your core truth just to make someone else feel comfortable. You must embrace the deeply uncomfortable reality that your authentic existence will inevitably trigger people, confuse them, and yes, make them strongly dislike you. And that dislike is not a punishment or a sign that you have failed. It is your ultimate badge of honor. It is the undeniable, concrete proof that you are finally steering the ship of your own life, rather than drifting aimlessly as a tragic hostage to public opinion. The universe does not require you to be a universally adored saint. It requires you to be fiercely, unabashedly alive. This psychological awakening is not a gentle, relaxing stroll through a sunlit garden. It is a violent, absolutely necessary storm that will relentlessly strip away everything fake, everything borrowed, and everything weak within you. You must look into the mirror again, not with the desperate intention of fixing a stranger's face, but to finally recognize the wild, untamed spirit that has survived beneath the masks all these years. The courage to be disliked is the ultimate rebellion against a world that demands your compliance in exchange for fake affection. It is a definitive declaration that you would rather be despised for who you truly are than loved for the phantom you were forced to become. Stop waiting for the world to give you permission to breathe, demand your life back, and step boldly into the magnificent, solitary fire of your own undeniable truth. And finally, conclusion. The profound journey toward genuine psychological liberation demands the absolute destruction of the comforting illusions that have kept you chained. You must first ruthlessly abandon the seductive lie that your past trauma dictates your present reality, recognizing instead that you are the sole author of your current choices. By shedding the victim identity, you immediately step out of the toxic, invisible arena of constant comparison, realizing that other people are not adversaries in a zero-sum game of human worth, but fellow travelers. True peace is then forged through the surgical application of the separation of tasks. You must fiercely protect your internal boundaries, reclaiming the staggering amount of energy previously wasted on attempting to control the opinions, emotions, and reactions of others. Your only obligation is to walk your authentic path. How the world perceives it is entirely their burden to bear. Ultimately, the synthesis of these awakenings culminates in the fiery price of freedom, the courage to be disliked. Living unabashedly in your own truth means accepting that your authenticity will inevitably upset those who are still bound by expectations. Seeking universal approval is a silent, tragic death of the soul. True freedom is not the absence of external judgment, but the unshakable inner conviction to stand firm in the crosshairs of societal disapproval and refuse to compromise. This philosophical awakening forces you to drop the exhausting masks of compliance and finally step boldly into the magnificent, unapologetic fire of your own unfiltered existence. The profound lesson. Your intrinsic value is not determined by your past wounds, your ranking in society, or the approval of others. True freedom is a solitary conquest achieved only when you take absolute responsibility for your own life and ruthlessly sever the chains of external validation. You cannot control how the world perceives you, and trying to do so will only destroy your authentic self. How to apply this to your life today? Starting right now, conduct a ruthless audit of your daily decisions and anxieties. Whenever you feel overwhelmed by the pressure of expectations, pause and ask yourself, whose task is this? If you want to change careers, set a strict boundary, or pursue a misunderstood passion, take the action because it aligns with your core truth. If your family, friends, or colleagues react with disappointment or judgment, mentally hand that emotion back to them. It is their task to process their feelings, not yours to manage. Stop over-explaining your choices, stop apologizing for your boundaries, and deliberately practice letting someone be upset with you without rushing to fix their discomfort. Reclaim your mental energy and invest it solely into your own self-mastery. Question for you. What is one specific choice in your life right now where you need to stop worrying about other people's opinions? Please leave a comment below sharing your perspective. We would love to read your thoughts and build a community of shared wisdom. If you found value in this video, please hit the subscribe button to support the channel and give us the motivation to keep creating more impactful content for you.